I'm standing in what used to be my childhood bedroom, watching my 34-year-old brother pack his designer suits into boxes like a man whose world just collapsed. The irony isn't lost on me. He's packing in the same room he stole from me 15 years ago, the room that started this whole war between us. Sarah, please, he's begging now, his voice cracking in a way I haven't heard since we were kids. You can't do this to me. I have a family. I run my fingers along the windowsill, where I used to sit and dream about escaping this house, this family, this suffocating favoritism that nearly destroyed me. The paint is different now. Marcus repainted it navy blue when he moved in, erasing every trace of the soft lavender I'd saved up months to buy. Funny thing about family, Marcus, I say, my voice steady as steel. I thought I had one too. His wife Emma appears in the doorway, her face puffy from crying, holding their 2-year-old son. She won't look at me, can't look at me, because she knows what they did, what they all did. The moving truck will be here in 2 hours, I continue, checking my watch. I suggest you hurry. Marcus drops to his knees, actually drops to his knees in front of me. Sarah, I'm sorry, we're all sorry, but taking everything, the house, the business, the accounts, this is too much. This is insane. I look down at him, this man who once stood 6 inches taller than me and made sure I never forgot it, and I feel nothing, no satisfaction, no regret. Just the quiet hum of justice finally being served. You're right, Marcus, it is insane. But you know what was also insane? What you all did to me. Let me take you back to where this all started, because every good revenge story has roots that run deep. I'm Sarah Chen Williams, 31 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the family disappointment. Not because I wasn't smart enough, or capable enough, or successful enough, but because I had the audacity to be born female and second. My parents, Margaret and David Williams, had very specific ideas about legacy. Dad built Williams and Associates Financial Planning from nothing, turning it into one of the most respected firms in Seattle. The plan was always for Marcus, their golden firstborn son, to take over. I was just there, the spare, the one who would hopefully marry well and give them grandchildren to spoil. Growing up in our Bellevue house, a sprawling 6-bedroom colonial that screamed, "We've made it," I learned early that love came with conditions. Marcus got the bigger bedroom with the ensuite bathroom because boys need more space. Marcus got the latest video games and computer equipment because he'll need these skills for business. Marcus got driving lessons at 16 and a brand new Honda Civic because successful men need reliable transportation. I got hand-me-downs and lectures about being grateful. Don't get me wrong, we weren't poor. My parents weren't monsters. They provided for me, sent me to good schools, paid for my clothes and activities. But there was always this underlying message that my achievements mattered less, that my dreams were cute hobbies rather than serious pursuits. When I was 13, I fell in love with photography. Not the casual Instagram kind, real photography. Black and white portraiture that captured something raw and honest about people. I saved every penny from babysitting jobs and birthday money to buy my first real camera, a used Canon that I treated like it was made of gold. "That's a lovely hobby, sweetheart," Mom would say whenever I showed her my work. "Very artistic. Maybe you can take family photos at Marcus's wedding someday." Meanwhile, Marcus was getting college prep tutoring and business mentorship from Dad's partners. The message was clear: his future mattered. Mine was ornamental. But here's what they didn't know about me: I was keeping secrets, big ones. While Marcus was partying his way through high school and barely maintaining a B average, I was working my ass off. I had a 4 GPA and was already taking business classes at the community college during summers. While he was spending his allowance on video games and energy drinks, I was investing mine. Small amounts at first, money I made from photography gigs, but I was learning, watching, absorbing everything I could about finance and investment. I had dreams, you see. Dreams of starting my own financial planning firm that specialized in helping women build wealth independently. Dreams of proving that I could be everything they thought only Marcus could be, and more. The photography wasn't just a hobby either, it was a gateway. I photographed weddings, senior portraits, family sessions, slowly building a client base and a reputation. By the time I was 17, I was making more money than Marcus was at his part-time job at Dad's firm. Not that anyone noticed. College was where things really started to shift. I got a full scholarship to University of Washington for business, with a minor in fine arts. Marcus went to the same school, but mom and dad paid his full tuition and expenses. He majored in business too, but spent most of his time partying with his fraternity brothers. I lived in the cheapest dorm I could find, worked 3 part-time jobs, and still managed to graduate summa cum laude. Marcus barely scraped by with a C average and had to do an extra semester to finish his degree. But guess who dad was grooming to take over the firm? After college, I moved back home temporarily to save money while I built my photography business and studied for my financial planning certifications. That's when the room situation came to a head. I'd been living in my childhood bedroom since I was 7, the smaller one at the front of the house that caught the morning light beautifully. I'd made it mine over the years, with my photography equipment, my books, my dreams plastered all over the walls in the form of vision boards and inspiration photos. Marcus had the master bedroom upstairs with the private bathroom and walk-in closet, but apparently, that wasn't enough anymore. "Sarah, honey," Mom said one evening over dinner, "we need to talk about the bedroom situation." I looked up from my plate, immediately suspicious. Mom only used that artificially sweet tone when she was about to deliver bad news disguised as a favor. "Marcus is 25 now," she continued. "He's looking for a wife, thinking about starting a family. He needs the space for when he brings girls home. It's not appropriate for him to have to share the hallway bathroom with his little sister." "I'm 22, not 12, I said. "And this is temporary. I'm saving money to get my own place." Dad cleared his throat. "The thing is, sweetheart, Marcus is established now. He's working at the firm, he's making good money. It makes sense for him to have the larger, more private room." "He already has the largest room," I pointed out, "with his own bathroom." "Yes, but your room has the better light for his new hobby," Mom added brightly. "He's got interested in painting. Isn't that wonderful? You're both so artistic." I stared at her. Painting since when? Marcus, who had been suspiciously quiet throughout this conversation, finally spoke up. "I took an art class at work, team building thing. Turns out I'm pretty good at it." He wasn't. I'd seen his art, sad little landscapes that looked like they were painted by a very talented 5-year-old. But that wasn't the point. The point was that once again, his needs came first. "So you want me to give up my room, pack up all my equipment and belongings, and move to the basement so Marcus can have better light for his new hobby?" I asked, my voice carefully controlled. "The basement is finished," Dad said defensively. "It's nice down there, and it's bigger technically. It has no windows. But it has privacy. You can come and go without disturbing anyone." Come and go, like I was a tenant instead of their daughter. That's when I realized something that would change everything. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as an inconvenience to be managed, a problem to be solved with the least possible disruption to their real priorities. I moved to the basement that weekend. I didn't fight it, didn't cry, didn't rage. I just packed up my entire life and moved it underground, literally and figuratively. But something shifted in me during those long hours of packing. Something hard and calculating and patient. If they wanted to treat me like an outsider, fine. I'd be an outsider. But I'd be a very, very smart one. What would you do? Comment below. Would you have fought for your room, or would you have done what I did? The final betrayal didn't come all at once. It built slowly, layer by layer, until the weight of it crushed whatever naive hope I still had about my family. 3 years after the room incident, I was 25 and thriving despite them, not because of them. My photography business was booming. I was booking weddings 18 months in advance and charging premium prices. More importantly, I'd gotten my certified financial planner designation and was quietly building a side consultancy, helping women in tech manage their stock options and build wealth. I was still living in that damn basement, but now it was by choice rather than exile. The money I saved on rent was going straight into investments, and I was building something they couldn't see or understand. Marcus, meanwhile, was struggling at the firm. Dad kept making excuses for him. He's learning. He needs time to find his footing. Clients take time to warm up to him. But I heard Mom and Dad talking when they thought I couldn't hear. Clients were complaining. Marcus was making mistakes. simple ones that someone with his education and experience shouldn't be making. But Dad was determined to make it work, because the alternative, admitting that his perfect son wasn't perfect, was unthinkable. That's when Emma entered the picture. Emma Morrison was everything my parents had ever wanted in a daughter-in-law: blonde, bubbly, from a wealthy tech family, and completely uninterested in anything resembling a career. She was 26, had a communications degree she'd never used, and spent her days planning charity luncheons and posting workout selfies on Instagram. She was also genuinely sweet, at least at first. When Marcus brought her home for Sunday dinner, she actually seemed interested in my photography work. She asked thoughtful questions, complimented my shots, even hired me to do her engagement photos when Marcus popped the question 6 months later. "I'm so glad Marcus has such a talented sister," she told me during the engagement shoot as I directed her and Marcus into position near the waterfront. "Your work is incredible. Do you ever think about doing this full time?" "I basically am doing it full time," I said, adjusting my camera settings, "between this and my financial planning work." "Financial planning?" She looked surprised. "I didn't know you did that too." "Sarah's got all sorts of little projects," Marcus said dismissively. "She's always been the hustler in the family." Little projects, that's how he saw the business I'd built from nothing, the certifications I'd earned, the clients who trusted me with their futures. Little projects. But Emma's surprise stung more than Marcus's dismissal, because it meant that in all their time together, he'd never mentioned that his sister was a financial professional. I was so irrelevant to his life that my career didn't even warrant a passing comment. The wedding was a lavish affair at the Four Seasons, paid for mostly by Emma's parents but supplemented heavily by Mom and Dad. I was the official photographer, which should have been an honor but felt more like another way for them to save money while keeping me busy and out of the way. During the reception, I overheard a conversation that changed everything. I was packing up my equipment, exhausted after 12 hours of shooting, when I heard voices coming from the small bridal suite where Emma had gotten ready. The door was slightly open, and I could see Mom, Dad, and Emma's father, Richard Morrison, having what looked like a serious conversation. "Just want to make sure Marcus is set up for success," Richard was saying. "Emma's used to a certain lifestyle." "Of course," Dad replied. "The firm is doing well, and Marcus is really coming into his own. We're planning to make him a full partner within the year." "And the house," this was Mom's voice. "We want to give them something substantial as a wedding gift." My blood went cold. There was only one house they could be talking about. "The Bellevue house is perfect for them," Richard said. "Great neighborhood for kids, good schools. Emma fell in love with it the first time she saw it." "It'll be Marcus's inheritance anyway," Dad said. "We're just moving up the timeline. Sarah will understand." "Where will you live?" Richard asked. "Oh, we're looking at some lovely condos downtown," Mom said brightly. "Something smaller, easier to maintain. And Sarah's been talking about getting her own place for years." Talking about it, not planning it, not saving for it, not actively working toward it. Just talking about it like it was a fantasy rather than a goal I'd been methodically pursuing. They were giving away my childhood home, the home where I still lived, in case they'd forgotten, without even consulting me. They were giving it to Marcus and Emma as a wedding gift, and just assuming I'd figure something else out. But that wasn't even the worst part. "What about Sarah's photography studio?" Emma's voice was soft, concerned. "She has all that equipment in the basement." "She can find somewhere else for her little hobby," Marcus said, and I could hear the dismissive shrug in his voice. "Maybe it's time for her to get serious about finding a real job anyway." A real job. I'd been running 2 businesses, supporting myself, building wealth, and contributing to the family in ways they couldn't even see, and he called it a hobby. He called financial planning, his own field, a hobby when I did it. "Marcus," Emma said, and there was something different in her voice now. Something I would later recognize as calculation. "Your sister is actually really successful. Did you know she managed the Hendersons' portfolio last year? They made almost 30% returns." The Hendersons were family friends, wealthy retirees who'd hired me to manage their investments after Dad's firm gave them lackluster results for 3 straight years. It was one of my biggest clients, and the returns Emma mentioned were real. But how did she know about them? Sarah told you that? Marcus sounded skeptical. No, my mom did. She heard it at book club. Mrs. Henderson was raving about her, said she's considering moving all their assets to Sarah's management. There was a long pause. Then Dad's voice, sharp and interested in a way it never was when my name came up. How much are we talking about? 2.8 million, Emma said, and growing. Another pause, longer this time. I had no idea Sarah was handling that kind of money, Mom said slowly. She's not just handling it, Emma continued, and now I could hear something else in her voice, something that made my stomach clench with dread. She's growing it, significantly. The Hendersons are talking about bringing in more of their friends. Sarah could have a real business here. Huh, Dad said thoughtfully. Marcus, did you know about this? I mean, I knew she was doing some side work, Marcus said, and I could hear him scrambling to save face. But I didn't realize the scale. Maybe we should bring her into the firm, Dad mused, if she's already building a client base. And there it was, the moment everything clicked into place. They didn't want me, they wanted what I'd built. They wanted my clients, my reputation, my success, but they wanted it under their name, in their firm, with their control. They wanted to take my room, my home, and now my business. Comment your thoughts. Can you see where this is going? What would you do if your own family tried to steal everything you'd worked for? The week after the wedding, Dad called me into his office at the firm. I'd been there exactly twice in my adult life, once for a college internship interview that he'd politely declined to give me, and once to drop off some tax documents for Mom. The space was all mahogany and leather, designed to impress wealthy clients with its air of established success. Sarah, honey, he said, gesturing for me to sit in one of the client chairs while he remained behind his imposing desk. I've been thinking about our conversation the other day. What conversation? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly where this was going. About your consulting work. Your mother and I had no idea you were doing so well with it. I never hid it from you. No, of course not, but you know how busy things get. We just didn't realize the scope. He leaned forward, putting on what I recognized as his client-schmoozing smile. The thing is, sweetheart, what you're doing is wonderful, but you're missing out on so much potential. The resources, the support staff, the established reputation, everything you'd have access to if you joined the firm officially. As an employee. As a partner, eventually, we're a family business after all. There was that word again. Family. The word they used when they wanted something from me, but never when I needed something from them. What would that look like exactly? I asked carefully. Dad's eyes lit up. He'd prepared for this question. Well, you'd bring your existing clients with you, of course. They'd become Williams and Associates clients. You'd have a salary plus commission, full benefits, access to our research team, and administrative support. And eventually, when Marcus takes over as managing partner, you could be his right hand. The perfect team. His right hand, not his partner, his assistant with a fancy title. And my independent practice would be absorbed into the firm, naturally. Non-compete agreements are standard in this industry, as I'm sure you know. Of course I knew. I also knew that what he was proposing would give him control over my clients, my income, and my future. Everything I'd built would become his, and I'd be left hoping for scraps from the table of my own success. I need to think about it, I said. Of course, take all the time you need, but Sarah? His voice took on that paternal tone that had always made me feel small. I hope you understand what an opportunity this is. What we're offering doesn't come around often. What he was offering, like he was doing me a favor by trying to steal my business. That evening, I called Emma. Despite everything, I still thought of her as an ally. She'd seemed genuinely supportive of my work, and she was the one who'd brought my success to the family's attention in the first place. Sarah, how are you feeling about the partnership offer? She asked brightly. My stomach dropped. He already told you about it. Of course, Marcus and I are so excited for you. This could be amazing for everyone. How do you figure? Well, you'll have job security, benefits, the backing of an established firm. And Marcus will have your expertise to help him when he takes over. It's perfect. Perfect for Marcus, maybe. Perfect for Dad's transition plan. But what about what was perfect for me? Emma, can I ask you something? The other day at the wedding, you mentioned the Hendersons. How did you know about their portfolio? There was a tiny pause, just a heartbeat, but it was enough. Oh, my mom heard it somewhere. Small world, right? Right, small world. But Emma's mother wasn't in Mrs. Henderson's book club. I'd checked. Emma's mother lived in California and had never met the Hendersons in her life. Which meant Emma had lied. But why? And more importantly, how did she really know about my client's private financial information? The answer came 2 days later, when Mrs. Henderson called me in a panic. Sarah, dear, I'm so confused, she said, her voice trembling with distress. I just got a call from Williams and Associates. They said you'd referred us to them for a consultation about diversifying our portfolio. My blood turned to ice. Mrs. Henderson, I never made any such referral. What exactly did they say? A young man, he said he was your brother? He said you thought we might benefit from their more comprehensive services and that you'd like them to do a review of our current holdings. He was very polite, very professional. But Sarah, we're happy with you. We don't want to change anything. You don't have to change anything, I assured her quickly. And you don't have to take that meeting. I'll handle this. Oh good, I was worried we'd offended you somehow, or that you were trying to, what do they call it, pass us off? Pass them off, like they were a burden I was trying to get rid of, instead of clients I valued and had worked hard to serve well. After I hung up with Mrs. Henderson, I called Marcus directly. Hey sis, he answered cheerfully. How's it going? Cut the shit, Marcus. Why did you call my clients? Whoa, what? I don't know what you're talking about. The Hendersons, you called them about a consultation. Oh, that? His tone shifted, becoming defensive. Dad asked me to reach out, feel out their interest level. We thought it would be a nice gesture, since you're probably going to be joining the firm anyway. I never said I was joining the firm. But you're going to, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Way better than trying to make it on your own. Trying to make it on my own? Like I hadn't already made it. Like the success I'd built meant nothing because it wasn't under their roof. Marcus, those are my clients. You had no right to contact them. Jesus, Sarah, relax. It's not like we're trying to steal them or anything. We're trying to help you. Help them too, for that matter. They'd get so much better service with our full team behind them. They're getting excellent service now. Come on, you're working out of a basement with no support staff, no research team, no administrative backup. How good can it really be? How good can it really be? I'd increased the Hendersons' portfolio value by 30% in 18 months. I'd helped them restructure their estate plan to save their kids hundreds of thousands in taxes. I'd guided them through the 2020 market crash with minimal losses and positioned them for the recovery that followed. But because I was doing it from a basement instead of a mahogany-paneled office, it couldn't really be that good. Don't contact my clients again, I said quietly. Or what? The question hung in the air between us, loaded with years of sibling hierarchy and family dynamics. Or what, little sister? Or what, basement dweller? Or what, hobby girl? Or I'll make sure they know exactly what kind of help you're offering. I hung up before he could respond. But Marcus wasn't done. Over the next 2 weeks, he contacted 3 more of my clients. Each time, he was just reaching out, just offering a consultation, just seeing if they might be interested in the fuller range of services Williams and Associates could provide. Each time, my clients were confused and uncomfortable. They'd hired me for a reason, and they were happy with my work. But Marcus's calls planted seeds of doubt. Was Sarah really qualified to handle their level of wealth? Shouldn't they at least hear what a more established firm could offer? 2 of them agreed to consultations, just to be polite. One of them, the tech executive who'd been my first major client, actually transferred his account. It's not that I'm unhappy with your work, Sarah, he told me over coffee, looking genuinely apologetic. But your brother made some good points about risk management and diversification strategies. And honestly, my wife feels more comfortable with a firm that has a longer track record. A longer track record, built by my father's sweat and intelligence, not Marcus's. But Marcus got to claim it anyway, just by virtue of being born first and male. That night, I sat in my basement office, staring at the portfolio I'd built over 5 years of grinding, hustling, and proving myself over and over again. 3 years ago, it had been worth nothing. Now, even after losing that one client, I was managing close to $4 million in assets. $4 million that Marcus wanted to absorb into Dad's firm. $4 million that represented not just money, but trust, relationships, reputation, years of 18-hour days and constant education and networking, and the kind of meticulous attention to detail that had earned me a spotless record and client loyalty that most financial advisors would kill for. I opened my laptop and started typing, but not a resignation letter and not an acceptance of Dad's generous offer. I started researching something else entirely. Something I should have looked into years ago, but had been too busy building my business to pursue. I started researching Williams and Associates' corporate structure, their client agreements, their business practices, and most importantly, their finances. If they wanted to play hardball, I was going to make sure I understood the rules of the game. All of them. The next morning, Emma called. "Sarah, I heard about the client situation. I'm so sorry that's causing stress." "Are you?" "Of course, I know how much your work means to you. But maybe this is a sign that it's time for a change? Time to let the family support you instead of trying to do everything alone." Let the family support me, as if they'd ever supported me, as if they weren't actively undermining me right now. "Emma, can I ask you something? How did you really find out about the Hendersons' portfolio returns?" Another pause, longer this time. "I told you, my mom heard it." "Your mom lives in San Diego and doesn't know anyone in Seattle except us. She's not in any book clubs here. She's never met the Hendersons." A silence. "Is Emma?" "Sarah, I think you're reading too much into." "Did Marcus ask you to find out information about my clients?" That's not, you're being paranoid." "Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my new sister-in-law was spying on my business and reporting back to her husband, who then used that information to try to steal my clients." "It's not stealing if it's family." And there it was, the truth finally. It's not stealing if it's family. The rallying cry of people who think blood relation gives them the right to take whatever they want from you. "You're right, Emma," I said quietly. "It's not stealing if it's family, it's betrayal." I hung up and sat there in my basement office, surrounded by the equipment and files and dreams they all wanted me to give up, and I made a decision. If they wanted to treat me like an enemy, I'd be an enemy. But I'd be one with access to every piece of information they'd never bothered to hide from me. Because they'd made one crucial mistake in all their scheming and plotting and casual dismissal of my capabilities. They'd forgotten that I was a financial professional too, and unlike Marcus, I was actually good at it. What's your take on the family dynamics here? Comment below, do you think Sarah is overreacting, or is this betrayal justified? Rate Emma's loyalty on a scale of 1-10. The revelation that would change everything came from the most unexpected source, Dad's own filing system. 2 weeks after Emma's confession, Mom asked me to help her organize Dad's home office. "Your father's brilliant with money," she said, "but hopeless with paperwork. Everything's just stuffed in boxes. I thought maybe your eye for organization could help." My eye for organization, the same eye they'd never trusted with anything important. "I can pay you for your time," she added quickly. "I know you're busy with your projects." Projects, even now, even after they'd seen the success I'd built, they still couldn't bring themselves to call it a business. But I agreed because something told me this was an opportunity I shouldn't pass up. Dad's home office was indeed a disaster. 15 years of tax returns, client files, business correspondence, and financial statements were jumbled together in boxes and filing cabinets with no discernible system. It would take weeks to sort through properly. But I'm nothing if not thorough, and patient, and very, very good with numbers. It was in the third box that I found the first irregularity. A client statement for someone I didn't recognize, Thomas Wu, showing a significant loss in a portfolio that should have been performing well based on the market conditions at the time. Then another and another. As I dug deeper, a pattern emerged. Client after client showing unexplained losses, poor performance, or investments that made no sense for their stated goals and risk tolerance. The kind of mistakes that weren't just unprofessional, they were potentially criminal. But here's the thing about financial crimes, they leave paper trails, and I was very, very good at following paper trails. I started staying late in Dad's office, telling Mom I was making good progress, while actually building a comprehensive picture of Williams and Associates' business practices. What I found made my blood run cold. Dad wasn't just a mediocre financial advisor, he was actively defrauding his clients. It was subtle, the kind of thing that would be hard for individual clients to catch, but obvious to someone with my training and a complete view of the operation. Excessive fees that weren't properly disclosed, churning accounts to generate commissions, investing client money in high-fee products that benefited the firm more than the clients. And in some cases, much worse. I found evidence of what looked like straight-up embezzlement. Small amounts at first, taken from accounts belonging to elderly clients who were less likely to notice discrepancies. But the amounts had grown larger over time, and the client base had expanded to include younger, wealthier individuals who trusted Williams and Associates with their life savings. People like the Hendersons, who Marcus had been so eager to consult with. The total amount was staggering. Over the past 5 years, Dad had skimmed nearly $2 million from client accounts. Money that should have been growing their retirement savings or funding their children's educations. Money that instead had been paying for Marcus's BMW, Emma's designer wardrobe, and the lavish lifestyle my parents had built on other people's financial futures. But the most damning discovery was a folder labeled M Training Files. Inside were detailed notes about how to identify vulnerable clients, how to structure fees to maximize profit, and most disturbingly, how to manage client expectations when performance was poor. Marcus wasn't just Dad's heir apparent, he was his apprentice in fraud. And according to the dates on the files, he'd been learning these techniques for over 3 years. I sat in that office at 2 a.m, surrounded by evidence of my family's crimes, and felt something shift inside me. All these years, I'd thought I was the failure, the disappointment, the one who couldn't measure up to their standards. But their standards were built on lies. Their success was stolen. Their judgment of my work, my legitimate, honest, successful work, was coming from people who were literally stealing from the clients they claimed to serve. The next morning, I called in sick to my photography shoot and spent the day making copies. Lots of copies. Organized, indexed, cross-referenced copies that told a story no jury would be able to ignore. Then I made some phone calls. First, to my former law school roommate Jessica, who now worked as a prosecutor specializing in white-collar crime. "Jess, I need to ask you a hypothetical question," I said. "Sarah, we both know you don't do hypothetical. What's going on?" I told her everything, the family dynamics, the business pressure, and most importantly, what I'd found in Dad's files. "Jesus Christ, Sarah," she said when I finished, "this isn't just malpractice. This is systematic fraud. We're talking about multiple felonies here. What would happen to someone who reported this kind of thing? They'd be protected under whistleblower statutes. But Sarah, we're talking about your family here. Are you sure you want to go down this road? What if they were your family? What would you do?" There was a long pause. I'd turn them in, because this isn't just about family anymore. It's about every client they've stolen from, and every future client they're going to steal from if someone doesn't stop them. My second call was to a private investigator Jessica recommended, someone who specialized in financial crimes and could help me build an airtight case. My third call was to Marcus. "Hey sis, how's the office organization going?" "I need to talk to you," I said, "all of you tonight." "What's this about?" "I think you know." There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice was different, wary. "Sarah, I hope you're not going to make trouble over the client situation. We've been talking, and we think we can work something out that benefits everyone." Oh, I'm sure you do. 7 o'clock family meeting. Emma and I have plans. Cancel them. I hung up before he could argue. At 7 o'clock, they were all there in Mom and Dad's living room, looking like they were attending a funeral. Which, in a way, they were. Sarah, honey, Mom started, I hope we can have a civilized conversation about whatever's bothering you. What's bothering me, I said, setting a box of files on the coffee table, is that I've spent the last month organizing Dad's paperwork, and I've discovered some interesting things. Dad went very still, such as the fact that Williams and Associates has been systematically defrauding its clients for at least 5 years. Such as the fact that you've stolen nearly $2 million from people who trusted you with their life savings. Such as the fact that you've been training Marcus to do the same thing. The room went dead silent. Dad's face had gone ashen, but his eyes were calculating, already trying to figure out how to spin this, how to minimize it, how to make it go away. Sarah, he said carefully, I think you're misunderstanding what you've seen. Financial planning is complex. There are nuances that someone without extensive experience might misinterpret. I'm a certified financial planner, Dad. I know fraud when I see it. Marcus stood up abruptly. This is insane. Sarah, you can't seriously be accusing us of embezzlement, of churning accounts, of charging excessive fees without proper disclosure, of targeting vulnerable elderly clients, because that's exactly what I'm accusing you of. You're being ridiculous, Emma said, but her voice was shaky. These are good people, they would never. Thomas Wu, I said, opening the first file. 83 years old widower, trusted you with his retirement savings. You put him in high-risk investments completely inappropriate for his age and goals, generated huge commissions for yourself, and when his account lost 40% of its value, you convinced him it was market volatility. Dad's jaw tightened. Mr. Wu signed off on those investments. He understood the risks. He has early-stage dementia, Dad. I talked to his daughter. He hasn't understood financial documents for over 2 years, but you kept taking his money anyway. Mom was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Sarah, sweetheart, surely there's an explanation. Margaret Foster, I continued, pulling out another file. 91 years old, living on a fixed income. You convinced her to cash out her CDs, her safe, guaranteed income, and put the money into a variable annuity with a 7-year surrender charge and fees that eat up 3% of her principal annually. Those products have their place, Marcus started. Not for a 91-year-old woman who needs liquidity for medical expenses. She's trapped in a product that's bleeding her dry, and when she dies, her kids are going to get a fraction of what she started with. I kept going, file after file, name after name, each one a real person whose financial future had been sacrificed to fund my family's comfortable lifestyle. Each one a story of trust betrayed and vulnerability exploited. And then there's this, I said, pulling out the most damning file of all. The training materials you've been using to teach Marcus how to identify opportunity clients, your code word for people who are easy to manipulate. Marcus's face had gone from red to white. Sarah, stop, just stop. Why? Because you don't want Emma to know what kind of man she married. Because you don't want Mom to know how her comfortable retirement is being funded. Because you're destroying the family, he shouted. Because you're attacking people who love you over some goddamn paperwork that you don't even fully understand. People who love me, I repeated slowly. People who love me don't steal my clients. People who love me don't dismiss my career as a hobby. People who love me don't take my childhood bedroom and give away my house without even asking. People who love me don't try to absorb my business into their criminal enterprise so they can steal my clients' money too. We were trying to help you, Mom cried. Everything we've done has been to help you. Help me what? Become an accessory to fraud? Help me destroy my reputation and my relationships with clients who trust me. Help me become complicit in the same crimes that are going to destroy this family. Dad stood up slowly. When he spoke, his voice was cold and controlled. What do you want, Sarah? What do I want? I looked around the room at these people who had shaped my entire life, who had made me feel small and inadequate and grateful for scraps, and I realized that what I wanted was very, very simple. I want justice.